Ships of the line. How a wooden war machine ruled the seas. Ships of the line were the embodiment of sea power in the age of sail. They were the shield at sea, guarding coasts from invasion, crushing enemy trade, and protecting convoys during the Napoleonic Wars and beyond. These were the largest, most complex war machines of their time. Britain possessed about 140 of them, more than any other nation. But its edge lay less in numbers or design than in people. Bold, seasoned captains, disciplined, hard-driving crews, men accustomed to winning. At the height of the Napoleonic Wars, the Royal Navy employed roughly 145,000 sailors, comparable to a European field army. A first-rate like HMS Victory needed a huge crew list to steer the ship, then to fight the guns. At Trafalgar, 1805, Victory carried 820 men, official complement 850. Only 15 were commissioned officers. One admiral commanding the fleet, one captain commanding the ship, 9 lieutenants of the Navy, 4 Royal Marine officers. Then came the senior warrant officers, the master, navigation, the gunner, great guns, small arms, powder, shot, the boatswain, sails and rigging, with his mates directing all deck work, carpenters, keeping the hull afloat and sound, the purser, provisions and accounts, the surgeon and the chaplain. There were 21 midshipman officer cadets, some as young as 13, serving 6 years at sea learning seamanship, sail handling, navigation, mathematics, and trigonometry before attempting the lieutenant's exam, a stern ordeal before a board of captains. Promotion to commander and post-captain depended on merit and, crucially, patronage. Without powerful friends, the climb could be punishing, as satirized by George Cruikshank. Not all officers were aristocrats. Most came from what we'd now call the middle class. Aboard Victory, you'd also find 43 clerks, servants, stewards, and orderlies assisting the officers, 69 petty and junior warrant officers with their mates, e.g., captain of the hold, armorer, sailmaker, 212 able seamen, veterans, 193 ordinary seamen, 1+ years service, 87 landsmen, new hands good for hauling on a rope, 142 Royal Marines soldiers who fought aboard ship, led landing parties, and upheld discipline, and 31 boys, many orphans, saved from destitution but bound to a harsh life at sea. Every man had his station. Topman, the strongest and boldest, worked the sails high aloft. Forecastlemen handled anchors and the bowsprit sails. Waistmen, quarterdeckmen, and the afterguard tended gear in their sections. Crews were split into 2 watches, larboard and starboard relieving each other in turn, with all hands called only for emergencies. They were further divided into divisions, each under a lieutenant responsible for his men's welfare and conduct. Like most British crews, Victory's was strikingly cosmopolitan. Most were from Britain and Ireland, but just 10% were foreigners: Americans, Italians, Dutch, Maltese, West Indians, and more. About half the men volunteered. The rest were impressed by notorious press gangs, combing ports and passing ships for suitable men. The practice bred fear and resentment. Mistakes happened. Unfit men or foreign subjects taken by error, though many were later released if they could prove identity. Even so, despite myths, the Navy did not sweep up vagrants wholesale. To wring maximum performance from a ship, a captain had to know his crew and his vessel. Every hull had its best point of sail. For Victory, it was within 1 to 2 points off the stern good for a top speed of feet on 10 knots. Large ships did not track perfectly straight. Leeway, the wind's sideways shove pushed them off course, which the helmsman corrected at the wheel. The officer of the watch, usually a lieutenant, ran the ship on his watch, setting or reducing sail and calling the captain if needed. In strong winds, a ship might carry courses and topsails only, with jibs to help. In light airs, she could add fore, main, top gallants, even royals, and sometimes studding sails on temporary booms. Under a crowd of canvas. If the wind freshened, stunsails and royals came in quickly before a squall could shred spars and sails. No sailing ship could sail dead into the wind. Close-hauled, Victory could lie about 6 points off the wind beating to windward. By tacking, putting the bow through the wind, an exacting maneuver that strained spars and rigging, or wearing, turning away through the wind astern, easier but slower. Anchoring a ship of the line was serious work. Depth was taken by lid line, marked in fathoms, sabastra fathom 6, ft jasart 1.83 mam. Preferred depths were up to 40 fathoms, 72 meters, though deeper was possible. Sail was reduced. As way came off, the anchor was let go with a buoy. Wind and tide would set the ship astern, while the cable paid out to about 3 times the depth. Its sheer weight, as much as the anchor itself, held the ship. Depending on conditions, additional anchors might be laid. A vital inshore maneuver was kedgings or warping. A small kedge anchor was rowed out ahead in a boat and dropped. The crew hove round the capstan to haul the ship up to it, repeating as needed. Alternatively, lines were run to a fixed point ashore, and the ship hove in. In battle, wind ruled all. The ship to windward, holding the weather gauge, chose when and how to fight. The leeward opponent had to claw up into the wind to close. False colors, flying an enemy flag to deceive, were an accepted ruse de guerre, but to fire without first hoisting true colors was a hanging offense. Clear for action. Drums beat. The ship transformed. Temporary cabins on gun decks were struck below. The sickbay was cleared. Patients moved forward. The galley fire was doused to reduce fire risk. Round shot, grape, and cartridges came up from the magazine. Boats were lowered and towed astern, safer from splinters and ready for emergencies. Sand was scattered on the decks to prevent slipping. Nettings rigged overhead to catch falling spars and blocks. Stations. The captain and officers, in full dress, on the quarterdeck. Topmen aloft to work the canvas. Marksmen posted in the tops. Carpenter's crew in the cockpit to plug shot holes below the waterline. Gunners' mates in the magazine preparing charges. The surgeon ready in the cockpit. 3/4 of the crew manned Victory's 104 guns, terrible firepower for the age. Her heaviest were 32-pounders on the lower gun deck, at close range, able to punch through about 2 feet of oak. Each gun was restrained by breeching and side tackles to tame the violent recoil. Without them, the 4-ton piece could careen across the deck. A gun's crew of 10 to 14 worked it, split if both broadsides were engaged. The captain of the gun aimed. The crew ran the heavy carriage with handspikes and tackles. On the order, the gun captain touched off by linstock at the vent, or increasingly, by flintlock, gunlock, and lanyard. Reloading. A man thumbed the vent to keep sparks out. The bore was sponged to quench embers, wiped again, a cartridge rammed home, then round shot or special shot and wad. The gun was run out. The pricker pierced the cartridge. Priming powder was added. Ready to fire. A veteran crew could manage a round about every 90 seconds, faster and more accurate than green crews, though fatigue and casualties soon slowed the rate. Conditions on the gun decks were hellish. Deafening blast, choking smoke, fierce heat, and ghastly wounds from shot and splinters. Actions often opened with the broadside guns along one side, firing in succession. The first broadside might be double-shotted for crushing effect. To guarantee penetration of a stout hull, captains closed to under 500 yards, 460 millimeters. Many preferred to fight yard-arm to yard-arm at point-blank range. Most devastating was a raking position firing down an enemy's bow or stern, shot scything the length of the ship and making carnage of guns and men. French doctrine tended to aim high, cutting masts and rigging to cripple a foe. British captains more often fired into the hull to silence guns and crews. At long range, 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers and more, round shot could ricochet across the water like skipping stones. Ammunition included round shot, cast iron, chain bar shot to maim masts and rigging, and at close quarters, grape or canister turning a gun or carronade into a giant shotgun to sweep decks. A captain might finish by boarding. Selected parties armed with muskets, pistols, cutlasses, and half-pikes. Grapnels seized the foe. Grenades and stink pots, early tear gas-like bombs, rained down. Then the boarders stormed the deck, where morale, dash, and speed decided the issue. Savage, but often brief. Major fleet battles, the Nile, Trafalgar, were rare, only a few days across 20 years of war. Between them, life followed strict routine, marked by the ship's bell. The sea day began at noon, found by sextant on the meridian altitude of the sun. When the sun reached its height, the afternoon watch began. The glass was turned, and the bell struck 8. Every half hour, a short glass ran. The bell struck 1, then 2, and so on. So 5 bells in the afternoon, watch meant 2:30 p.m. 8 bells ended a watch. One half of the crew went below to rest or work. The other took station. There were 7 watches, with 2 dog watches of 2 hours in the evening to rotate the men, so no group always stood the same night watch. Senior officers slept in swinging cots, everyone else in hammocks slung between beams. Most men slept on the middle or lower gun decks, hammocks strung between cannon, only 50 centimeters apart. But with 2 watches, half the hammocks were empty at any time. Only part of the watch was needed to con the ship. The rest kept her smart, swabbing decks, polishing brass, painting woodwork maintenance, and pride. There were 3 meals a day, but only dinner at noon was hot. Men ate in messes of 8, taking turns to fetch dinner from the galley and eating at a table slung between guns. Food was plain, but plentiful, often better than ashore. Barrels of beef and pork, ship's biscuit, and, when possible, fresh meat, vegetables, and water. Weekly rhythms included washing clothes and hammocks, weather permitting, gunnery drill, and Sunday service led by the chaplain if carried, otherwise by the captain. At least monthly, the Articles of War 36 offenses from drunkenness, theft, and cowardice to striking an officer or mutiny were read aloud. Half carried the death penalty. For some, it was mandatory. Royal Navy discipline was notorious. Where hanging wasn't ordered, the usual punishment was the cat-o'-nine tails of public flogging by the boatswain's mate. Drink was the commonest offense, helped along by the daily tot. In home waters, around a gallon of beer per man per day. Abroad, 1.2 pint of rum or other spirits, diluted 1.4 with water and mixed with lime or lemon juice against scurvy. The legendary grog. A man caught drunk or asleep on watch might get 12 lashes before the assembled crew. Serious crimes like desertion could bring 200 lashes or more, sometimes fatal. Some captains were tyrants. Most knew punishment must be measured. Sailors expected no easy life, but they did expect fair treatment, or trouble would follow. In 1797, the fleet saw massive mutinies. Spithead, essentially a strike for long overdue pay rises, ended peacefully, with most demands met. The Nore pressed radical demands and threatened to defect to France. This time, the state made an example. 29 ringleaders hanged. Harsh as it was, life at sea forged crews into skilled, reliable, tight-knit teams. Men captains could trust when it mattered. A strong fleet, well-manned, well-found, backed by a powerful economy, secured command of the sea in the Napoleonic era. British sea supremacy, together with Russian and coalition victories on land, brought down the French emperor. After the war, HMS Victory was placed in reserve, narrowly escaping scrapping. She served as flagship to the port admiral at Portsmouth. then Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy. Following a major refit, she began a second life as a museum ship, opening to the public in 1928. Today, she's undergoing another major conservation to meet the challenges facing a 250-year-old wooden ship, so she can endure as a unique monument to a dramatic age of naval warfare. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, leave a like, and share it with your friends.